Okay, so here we have a function that's been defined for us, and we are going to try and find the range. Asha, we're going to try and find the range of this function. What is the domain of the function?
-7,
Well,
plus.
it's giving you the domain here.
It's not going to be fun.
This is the domain. All you need to do for the domain, if you wanted the domain, is you just write it like this. They will often give you a domain on your, when they introduce you a function. So on your exams, when they introduce a function, they often state the domain for you. Often. You can find the answers in this bit. So get used to reading that. Get used to seeing what it says. What does it say? It says that we are going from -7 up to 7, so we have to limit the function. And here it's giving the vertical asymptote. This is a vertical asymptote. When it says it's not defined for x equal to 5, if you look here, -5 is the value that will make that denominator 0. -5 is the value that will make that denominator 0. You can't divide by 0. So that's what creates the asymptote. So we can see all of that there. We need to find the range. So what we need to do is you need to get a picture of how the graph looks. So get your calculator. In your calculator, press Control, add page, add a graph page. Type the function in carefully as we see it, 2 minus, and then we want the quotient. So we press Control, divide. We've got 12 on the top, and x, let me hide that, x plus 5. Let's press Enter. Now, we need to see it a little bit. So you can enter restrictive intervals, restricting the domain of the function, but it's a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a pain, so we won't do it today. All I'll recommend you do is for this domain given here, this part of the domain, let's set the x-axis to that. So we'll press Menu, Window, Settings. And let's only look at from -7, tab, up to 7. So this is the bits that we see. There's something missing over here. Where is it? We need to extend up a little bit and to see the other part. So go into Menu, Window, Settings, and it's the Y maximum value that needs to change. So the Y maximum, I'll just make it 20, see how the graph looks. I'm starting to see it a little bit. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Menu, Window, Settings. I'll scroll down here. Let me bring this one down to -20 and this one up to 50. Start to see the shape of the graph now. So what you can do to answer this question is the first thing I recommend you do on your paper is you sketch what you see on the calculator. So I'm going to draw my axes like this, and then I'm going to just sketch the curve. So we have a vertical asymptote. What is the vertical asymptote? How do you know that? It gave it to you. So we see the vertical asymptote. Let me add that next. If you draw the asymptotes, it helps you to sketch the curve. So with this type of a curve, you start by drawing your asymptotes. Our first one is here at x equals -5. That's your vertical asymptote. Can we see there's a horizontal one? Can you see there's a horizontal one?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some techniques for finding it. One of the easiest techniques for finding it is scroll back to your calculator page. See what's on your calculator now. Scroll back to your calculator page. Press Variables. And in here, you should see the function that you just entered. I entered it in as F1. You might have entered it in as F2. So pop that down, and it'll let us calculate some values. So for finding the asymptote, why don't we just put in a really big value and see what we get? So if I do documents, no, I think just Control Enter will do. What value is that almost? Now it's rounding into three significant figures. 2. So let's try it for a big negative value. What's the horizontal asymptote? 2. So the calculator will tell us the answer like this. If you're not getting it, just sorry.
My calculator didn't run several.
I've got it depends on your settings. So press document.
Mine is on float.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm on float 3 at the moment. So document settings, I'm on float 3, which is why it rounds it so quickly. But you'll still see if it says 1.999 that, okay, that's going towards 2. Just put in a bigger value and you'll get that. So the horizontal asymptote. What was the horizontal asymptote?
-5.
That's vertical. Horizontal asymptote is y equals 2. Now, we need to know what the endpoints are. So we'll use this technique again. We'll pull up the function. What's the smallest value in the domain?
-7.
So put in -7. What's the y value? So it goes through here at -7, 8. And remember how the picture looks? So from this point, it goes up like this. Let's go back to here, pull up the function. What's the biggest value in the domain? 7. What's this value? The y value. So here is at 7, so we have a point here, which is 7, 1. How does the graph look around there? It's coming down towards this asymptote here, like this. Okay, so now we've got our sketch. We've identified the key features of the graph. The asymptotes is important for this one. This end value. If we saw a maximum or a minimum, we don't for this function, but if it was like a quadratic, we have maximum and minimum. We should find those ones. Those are key points that are going to maybe be where the range is. So, right, let me just go for the answer first, and I'll take the question. What is the range of the function? What is the range of the function? Y is not equal to all of these values here. So y starts at -infinity and comes up to 1. It then stops. So normally we would just exclude the asymptote, but in this case the function stops there because of the limited and restricted domain. Because the domain is restricted, it stops there, and it starts again up here and goes up. So let's write that if we can. We can write it in a few different ways. The easiest way to write this is we say that y is less than or equal to, if you notice your inclusion symbols here, means it's less than or equal to 1, or y is greater than or equal to 8.
Sir, I don't understand. I'm not trying to be rude, I just really don't understand.
Let's write it if we want using interval notation. So in interval notation, we start off at -infinity and we come up to 1, and then we start again at 8 and we come up to infinity. Interval notation is one of the easiest ways to write this type of an interval, using the union symbol there in the middle.